Oh, I forgot to close that, and then I forgot to close that, and then I forgot to close that, and there we are. Dismiss that. Give a little scratch behind the ears. Oh, yes. And we're on, I think. There it is. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Sip of water. So there's been a stay in the Bratya case for the lawsuit against Ryan Cohen. Somebody's cooking something really sneaky. We're gonna do that. All right. In the Bratya case for the lawsuit against Ryan Cohen, the stay implies basically a ceasing of discovery. There's going to be meetings between the two sides, conferences, as it were, and it appears as though probably a settlement coming, or they're waiting for the outcome of the HBC case, 16B case, which my guess is probably also going to get tossed at some point. So, nothing going forward with Bratya, so maybe some things get spicy. Other news, it was pointed out that the debt for equity offer that Carl Icahn's IEP had going expires today, or expired today at close, I guess. If there's no takers, I have no idea what that means, but interesting that was something that's going on. Everything else to add, Monkey? I already forgot what I put in the yield. Oh yeah, leader of Hezbollah got blown to bits. So that part is done. Yeah. I can't remember what I put into I write my titles and then I don't remember what it was. Oh yeah. And the CEO of Polymarket was upset at me. I don't know if you guys know what Polymarket is. It is a crypto betting site, and it's owned by Peter Thiel and a whole bunch of Kremlin oligarchs. I think the original creator of the website was a Kremlin Russian dude. And they've been doing betting on the presidential election. And they hired Nate Silver, who used to run 538 and has gotten really weird. And Nate Silver's over doing the stats crunching for Polymarket. Polymarket has been giving really weird odds, showing that Trump is like way ahead. He's got like a 70% chance of winning the election, even though he's really, 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 really not ahead at all. He's behind nationally and in most of the swing states. And his odds of winning are not very good. And so I commented, because a lot of conservative pundits were like using the Polymarket analysis as like proof that Trump was going to win an election. I was like, dude, Polymarket's putting their thumb on the scale. And I explained why I thought that was, but the CEO of Polymarket contacted me last night and was like, explain what you mean. And I said, look, dude, you run a betting website owned by a known Nazi Peter Thiel and a whole bunch of Russian oligarchs. You're putting your thumb on the scale and convincing a whole bunch of these rubes to bet heavy on Trump, thinking that Trump is going to win this election. So you can do two things. One, you take their money, because they're not getting it back. They're sending you a bunch of money, a whole bunch of crypto, betting on this thing. They're going to lose, and you're going to keep all of it. And two, you also put in their minds that Trump, for some reason, is going to win this election, which when he inevitably loses, which is what's going to happen, because the odds are not in his favor, they will then foment another insurrection or worse. And that is something Peter Thiel would want, because he's an absolute monster. He is a Bond villain. Peter Thiel is a Bond villain. Elon Musk is an Austin Powers villain. But yeah, so I've not heard back from the CEO yet on that. And so there you go. You know what I have to do? I have not done one of these.
Houston, we have a problem.
Ooh, there we go. Turn that off. Boink. And Cameron Mirza at Super Chats. Monkey treat, please. Cameron is making sure Monkey is a well-fed creature. So, let's feed the monkey bite. Yeah? You want to come up here and get it? Do you want to show everybody your pretty face? Yeah. Oh, there it is, right there. You gotta get it. Oh, there you go. The gentlest dog in the entire world. Other dogs would be like, and just take your hand. She's just so. When we visit the stores in town, take her for walks and go to the stores. And all the stores in where I live have dog treats because everyone loves dogs here. There's like bowls of water outside, dog treats inside. And if it's like a new person, they're always like, they give it to her and she only takes the treat from the hand. And they're always like, oh, wow, she didn't try to eat me. Because I think other people just must raise asshole dogs. I don't know. Okay. Oh, did I turn off the intro's off. Oh, make sure that's... Kelly Reed was first, suckers. Kelly Reed also says, strategic move from Ryan Cohen to have GME partner with PSA when Steve Cohen is a big investor in PSA. Smart move from GME and video game sales slump. They'll have grading cards to help out revenue. Yes. Want to give you jump of the crunches there yet, buddy? Only got a few more to go. Yeah, that's is a big deal. Trading cards, depending on your age, right? In the 1980s, trading cards had a gigantic explosion. Basically, it's kind of gone through waves. You had 50s and 60s kids buying lots of trading cards. Then they had kids in the 80s, and those kids got really into trading cards. And those kids from the 80s are now had kids of their own, and those kids are really into trading cards. So it's a very cyclical nature as to interest in trading cards, and the interest has exploded. And the value of cards is like back to 1980s levels, just bonkers on a lot of those. So these cards are big money. It's like a multi-billion-dollar industry. And if you, like a lot of people they've got to put their cards in the mail, hope, get it insured, send it off to the place, hope it gets there. When it gets there, it gets graded, put back in the mail, and hope it comes back, right? And now you can take your cards to GameStop, sign up there, and then they have to worry about it. And it's already insured and all that stuff. So it's a pretty big deal to do that. And if you guys know what grading cards is, like if you got a baseball card or a Pokemon card or whatever, right? And you want it to be as pristine as possible and as nice as possible and as valuable as possible, is you send it off and they look at it and they go, oh, okay, how centered in the borders is it? Does it have any ink blotches? Are there any errors? Are there any like creases or dings or anything like that? And if they can grade it as like a PSA gem mint 8, 9, 10, whatever, that card all of a sudden is put in a sealed box and it will remain that good forever, right? So it can be worth just a boatload of money. And that's the whole purpose. Is like you could have a card that's just as good, but it's not graded. Then is it real? Is it fake? How good are the margins? So you send it off to a grading service like PSA or Bowman or whatever. I can't remember all the companies that do it. Hey, kitty. Yeah, fat man, get in here. So yeah, it's a big business. Cards in general are a huge business right now, and the grading services are a huge business. So yeah, it's a big deal at Kelly Reed. And Kelly says he's going to be trading my Pokemon cards for some cash to buy GME. That is also a thing people do. They offload their collectibles from their childhood, and then they go from there. Oh Lord, he trading. Look at that guy. Oh, look at you, you fat little clown. Yes. Yeah. So, we're number 3. Our subreddit is now the number 3 subreddit for creators and influencers on the internet for some reason. I think we have 8,700 members now. We'll be at 9,000 by like the end of the week. It's crazy. We are more active than subreddits for like really popular YouTube stars that have 3 million people. It is crazy. Whatever you guys are doing with your posting and just drawing in obscene amounts of traffic, I don't understand. But kudos. I find it absolutely wild that we're like rocketing towards number 1. And yeah, I don't get it. So welcome any new members who happen to show up. Where am I? Okay. Dead Bass, if you ain't first, you're last. Truth. Corporal Walnut, there is no option when it comes to options. Black Udon, I'm first. Lee Meadows, 4th. Loby, 741st. Lee Meadows, our dog has had 9 pups. Your dog had 9 pups today. Oh my goodness, what kind of dig dog do you have? What kind of pups did she produce? Congratulations, puppy mama. That's a big batch, Black Udon. Citizen 54, Trump cancels yet another interview, canceled rally at the NRA, of all places. The implosion has begun. Will he make it to November 5th, or will he drop out? Perhaps flee the country? He's done, son. I think he's tired. I think he's depressed. I think he's got untreated PTSD from the assassination attempt. I think he's old and in poor health. So I think he's just shutting down personally. He went to the Univision town hall yesterday and got absolutely rocked by a bunch of like Cubans and Mexicans. I don't think he was expecting the pushback he got, but he got a lot of pushback from those folks. And the crowd was very much like this the entire time. Because that's pertinent questions. One dude's like, "Hey, I'm a farmer. I pick broccoli and lettuce. I've been doing it for 40 years. You kick us out, where's your food coming from?" Basically, and Trump's like, "Arbada," he couldn't answer it. So it's where does the food come from? Right? Like Trump is someone who hired illegal immigrants throughout his career. I mean, his dealings with the mob resulted in the mob using illegal Polish immigrants, slave labor, they weren't getting paid, to make the foundations of his buildings. Right? So like Trump, whether he chose these folks or he was forced to choose these folks because of the mob element, he's always trying to like get dealings with the mob. He basically had unpaid slave labor do the foundations to his buildings via the mob. So, you can complain all day long about immigrants, but really, immigrants built this country. Illegal immigrants feed you. These undocumented workers are who feed you. Your food is as cheap as it is for two reasons: government subsidies, undocumented immigrants. That's it. That's why you have cheap food. So if you want to complain about inflation, you attach tariffs to everything and you get rid of all the people who pick your food. Stuff's rotting in the fields in Florida because of DeSantis's anti-immigration laws he put in place. And the farmers were like, "What the fuck?" But the farmers all voted for DeSantis, and they're all kicking themselves now because basically it's one of those things like, "Yeah, we need to get rid of the immigrants," not realizing that 90% of their employees are immigrants. And then, when the immigrants all leave because they don't want to go to prison in Florida and go work elsewhere, the farmers have their melons and stuff rotting in the fields. So where's your food going to come from? We bring in cheap labor from outside the country to pick our food. 90% of agricultural workers are immigrants, and a huge number of those are undocumented. And those people, they have children who become citizens. Those children get provided for. They go to American schools. They go to American colleges. They become the next generation of like standardized American citizens. And then the next group of immigrants come in and work the fields and everything else. And that's just sort of how America has worked at this point. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? It's funny they canceled the NRA. So the NRA has a new head, a new leader. I forget the dude's name, but he famously in college got a kitty cat, little kitty cat, and he cover your ears, buddy. He chopped the paws off the kitty cat, strung it up, and lit it on fire while still alive. That's the new head of the NRA. And yesterday the NRA was trying to make fun of Tim Walz. He's looking kind of goofy. He's got his shotgun up against his belly if he's out like pheasant hunting or duck hunting or something. And he's like awkwardly unloading the gun. And the NRA is like, "Oh, this guy says he knows how to use a gun." But what he was doing is he was literally unloading the weapon so that it could be stored safely, because that's what you do. And they got blasted by the internet for being like, "Oh, the NRA doesn't know how to unload a gun. They unload a gun safely. They only know how to unload it into another man's face." Like, it's funny. Anyway, the NRA are monsters. Corporate Walnut, can we talk about the October 23rd BBBY creditor thing? Like, literally, let's go. What the hold up? My brain is fried. So the October 23rd marks 18 months since Bed Bath & Beyond filed for bankruptcy, BBBY. And under bankruptcy law, after 18 months, you have all your actions of the plan that the debtor creates, right? After 18 months, the creditors can then submit their own plan for a bankruptcy. So we are almost at the 18-month point, which is, when's the 23rd? That's next Wednesday? Calendar, next Wednesday. So if we don't have any resolution before the 23rd, then the possibility that the creditors, 6th Street is the main creditor here, could write a new plan for bankruptcy. So we'll see if that happens. I do have a feeling something weird might happen on Friday. Something weird indeed. So that's what that's all about, Corporate Walnut. Anonymoth 54. He will stay in so he can drain the accounts dry, too much money on the packs, etc. Oh, I think that's so too. Snert. Oh, he's in win World War III. Isn't it happening like right now? I mean, the Israelis have expanded their war, right? Iran, North Korea are involved in the Ukraine conflict. Got the whole rest of the world supplying weapons to Ukraine. We have Israel pissing off the UN and basically attacking UN positions, namely where this group of Irish soldiers are stationed. So now Ireland is like, fuck it, let's go to war with Israel. We've got Saudi Arabia now threatening to jack up oil production to collapse prices to bankrupt Russia because they're pissed at Russia because Russia is using Iran to buy a whole bunch of weapons, and Iran is Saudi Arabia's nemesis. When before Trump had told Saudi Arabia they couldn't get weapons unless they restricted production to jack up prices so Russia could make a bunch of money. That's in April 2020. And we've got Iran trying to torpedo the Trump campaign because they see Trump as someone who's going to nuke Iran. We've got Russia trying to torpedo the Harris campaign because Trump is their buddy. It is the most mixed up, jumbled up, messed up world we got going on here. And it doesn't make any sense. The allegiances are so interwoven and like... Man, I don't know. It becomes a Mexican standoff, I think, at some point. Just bonkers. I think first and foremost, you just get rid of Putin, and then a lot of this stuff will figure itself out. Just like tick one thing off at a time, and then you can work on the other crises that are all happening. MT's here. Tom Savage. First time I've got to see you live, and go Guardians. Hey, you know what? I grew up a big-time Cleveland Indians fan because of the movie Major League. So I love it when the Indians the Guardians are in the playoffs. Devron was 743rd. Benjamin, Ian Carroll, holy shit. Yeah. My sister loves Ian Carroll. She sends me his videos all the time. I've sort of just kind of avoided his posts, namely because I don't know how to describe it. He makes videos, and they're compelling videos, and he does a good job making them. He's a handsome guy, he speaks well, he's dreamy looking, and he makes videos, but the videos, they have a lot of like tenuous conspiracy theories in them. And they start off pretty well, but usually they become this roundabout way that sort of, I don't want to say, becomes anti-Semitic and is full of like Kremlin talking points. And it's always made me wary. And then this last week, he jumped on board with this account that's called Black Insurrectionist, which is 100% a Kremlin disinformation account. There's no Black Insurrectionist behind that account. It is a definite troll account. And this troll account presented all these emails claiming that they were speaking with someone who was abused by Tim Walz when Tim Walz was a school teacher, and that Tim Walz lost his job because of abuses that got reported. Now, these claims are all unverified, and the school board's like, that didn't happen. The problem is that the Black Insurrectionist account goofed up on forging their documents. They're claiming that the emails came from Proton Mail, but the timestamps are different than what are in Proton Mail. In the screenshot, the dude accidentally kept the cursor in there as if he was the one writing the email. And since then, there's been nothing come up. But Ian Carroll backed it pretty hard. And then last night, he came out. He's like, support Alex Jones and his new channel, Freedom Raw. And Alex Jones is a mush-brain piece of shit. He lost that lawsuit against the Sandy Hook family for $1 kajillion because he's unrepentant. And I don't know if honestly, I don't know if Alex Jones means what he says or has any malice behind it. I think his brain is broken and he's an alcoholic. And he can't discern truth from fiction and has no ability to verify information. He just goes with whatever the most bibbledy thing is because he's crazy. My personal disdain for him comes from my own family experience. My little sister's best friend, Scott Beagle, was killed in the Parkland shooting on Valentine's Day in 2017. And she ran a summer camp with him for over a decade in Pennsylvania. Every summer, they'd run that summer camp together. She was his roommate. She was like best friends. Just loved the guy. And he was a geography teacher at Marjory Stoneman Douglas, and he was shot 14 times with an AR-15 that had a swastika carved into it by the Nazi who did the shooting. And while he was shielding his students, he was blocking the doorway so the gunman couldn't get in and slaughter the students inside there and just lit them up. And my little sister found out about this. Like, she literally, left the house. They were roommates, left the house like, hey, man, I'll see you when I get back. And she hopped on a plane to go visit friends in Australia. And when she landed and got to the airport, there was his face on the TV. He'd just been murdered. And, having to try and console somebody who's 10,000 miles away, whose best friend just got blown away by a Nazi, as well as dozens of children, like, that type of thing, it scars a family. It scars a person. It absolutely ruins somebody's insides. And so, Alex Jones was claiming that it was a false flag, that it was crisis actors, that, like, fuck that, dude. Scott Beagle and those other kids are gone. They're gone. They were killed by a Nazi, by a dude who probably listened to Alex Jones' fucking podcast. That's who killed those people. And when I see folks be like, Alex Jones is the best, fuck you. Fuck you so hard. Just, you're pieces of shit. And there's nothing redeeming about Alex Jones. You can say that he's a crazy person, he doesn't know what he's doing, but then why platform him? Why see him as a source of entertainment if that's the crap he's going to produce? Because he's fucked in the head. And so I have a real hard time trying to see the good in folks who will propagate obvious false documents and accusations from Russian troll accounts, who will put forward, A+, yay, way to go, Alex Jones posts. If you go to Ian Carroll's posts talking about Alex Jones, and I commented, talked briefly about my family's experience with Alex Jones. Under it, you have, 1,000 comments. Probably 90% of those comments are upset with Alex Jones because Alex Jones won't say that the globalists he rails against are in fact the Jews. So that's most of the comments are like, I can support Alex Jones, but he really needs to be more of a Nazi. And that is what Ian was attracting with that post was the pro-Nazi side of things. And just don't placate Nazis. Don't ever do it. There's a hard line in the sand, and if all of a sudden all the Nazis are cheering you on, that is a litmus test for whatever it is you are doing it wrong. And you need to stop, go, hey, fuck you, Nazis, and reverse course. Because if they're cheering you on, you're doing it wrong. Make that a bumper sticker. But yeah, it's to me, I wouldn't doubt if he'll pop up on, the DOJ's list of Americans who have been identified by the Kremlin as possible assets. They've got 600 of them on that list, and his talking points fit that way. And he spent a lot of time defending Tim Pool. And, it's just, he went from this kind of hippie, freedom and love. And now all of a sudden he moved to Idaho and he's hanging out at that bar that bans trans and gay people. And it's just, it feels very uncomfortable for me. And I don't like it. When people placate Nazis, I don't like it. So you can put me down for that. Don't placate Nazis. Okay, enough about that. Corporal Walnut, his videos smell funny. Yes. Super chat from there. A super chat from Case Chapman. New filing in Bratya case. Yes, the new filing in Bratya case is the stay. And the stay is it's literally nothing will happen in this case. You guys can have a meeting, a conference to discuss where you want to go from here. But as far as discovery, filings, ain't nothing happening until I lift this stay. So that's a good thing. That's a good thing. Okay. New filing by RC in the case. Oh. Bratya. Can you send it to me on Twitter if I have not seen it, or tag me, and I will see what I can see here. Okay. Nothing there. Nothing there yet. Nothing there. Okay. Oh, there we go. Notification. Oh, there we go. Thank you for tagging me in there. Okay, so Tufels got it. Let's see here. Let's bring it up. Chromity Chrome. Bing, bing. Okay, so Bed Bath & Beyond, defendants RC Ventures, Ryan Cohen, opposition to plaintiff's motion for reconsideration. Okay, this must be the reconsideration for class standing. 20 argument, both forfeited wrong. Okay. Boop. Oh, okay. So we got the whole hoogity boogity. Is there more? We got more screenshots from the two? You do. Okay. Bratya's motion either raises arguments that should have been, but were not raised in its underlying motion for class certification. So it is the opposition to their reconsideration for class. Or merely recycles the same arguments already pressed and rejected. It's wasting limited time, resources, litigants in the judicial system. There's much that could be said in response to both Bratya's waived argument and its recycled arguments. But respecting this court's time and the thorough analysis contained in its order denying class certification, defense RC Ventures and Ryan Cohen collectively attempt to summarize their opposition succinctly. Reconsideration is unwarranted. So basically, it doesn't meet the legal standard. Insisting the reliance is not required. Bratya argues that the court should have separately assessed predominance for its claim in Section 28 of the Exchange Act. Okay, so they're going to pick this thing apart because Bratya had a couple problems. One, he was day trading and sold his shares, so he actually doesn't have standing. Two, it appears as though if you don't have standing, you can't make a class action suit. And three, because nobody has shares whatsoever, no one has standing at all. And probably four, my guess is that the 16B case is bogus to begin with. 28 Ninth Circuit consolidated plans, violates underlying. Okay. Complaint Bratya sought Section 28 claim based on alleged underlying violations of sanctions 10B, 9A, 9F, Exchange Act. Each of these alleged allegations predate required alliance. Order denied certification. The court rightfully concluded that Bratya cannot prove reliance, an essential element of its predicate claims on class-wide basis. It necessarily follows that Bratya cannot pursue class-wide resolution of a Section 28 claim, which depends upon claims that this court determined were unfit for class certification. So, yeah, so they... Good. Good there, Casey. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. It's basically... Oh, I did not flip one from Militia. Take a moment, turn off the original intro. Kitty? Meh. Oh, you too. I'll pet your face. Okay. What was I doing? Where was I? Brandon Wells is here. Big Muley. And your polls aren't. Are you talking about polls being biased? I mean... If you go via the 5 most trusted and accurate polling services, Harris is up like 51 to 46 or 47 nationally, and she's going to win. A big thing that Trump people fail to realize is that Trump is the only president in history to never have a positive approval rating, ever. From the moment he was elected to the time he left office, he never had 50% approval or more of the entire country. Never really got close. I think the highest he got was like 48%. You can't win if most people hate your guts. It's just not possible. And so you can be like, well, there's so many of us. Yeah, there's a lot of you, but there's a lot more of the people who hate him. And you can run, a potato. And a potato is going to win against him because he offends the population less. So you guys can be a very, very, very vocal minority and seem like you're very loud and there's a lot of you, but there's more of everyone else. And there's just as many people who fucking hate his guts and just as many people who never want to see him again, but just don't talk about it. They just silently go, no. Right? So the polls reflect that and the elections reflect that. He is not well liked. He isn't. He just is not popular. He's not as popular as you want him to be. He's not as popular as you think he is. He is just not a likable person. And I don't know why you like him. I don't. Because if I were to sit down and talk to you about what his actual policy positions are, you would reject almost every single one of them. Right? And he does have a way with words sometimes. Like he's out there saying, hey, I won't tax overtime. But he also, in Project 2025... they're going to eliminate overtime pay. So it's really easy to say you aren't going to tax something that won't exist anymore. So your time and a half, double time, triple time and a half, depending on what your contracts are, right? That pay is going to vanish under him. So yeah, you're not going to get taxed on it because it just won't exist. He's said multiple times he hated paying overtime, would try to avoid it at all times when he in his own business. So, are you for that? Are you for the privatization of Social Security? Probably not, right? Are you for, eliminating Medicare and Medicaid? Probably not, because we all know that at some point in our lives, we're going to have to rely on this stuff to survive. So, you could be like, oh, yeah, because he's manly or whatever, and, you can delude yourself into thinking that dandy of a mushball is the most manly man who's ever walked the face of the earth. But the dude's shitting his diapers. He whines and bitches about everything. He's super racist. He's just an absolutely paper-thin shell of an ego. And he's just going to lie to you constantly. So, like, you can pretend as though everyone likes him. But really, it's just you and your buddies. And there are not enough of you and your buddies to overtake the election at this point. They just aren't. So, face facts. That's just the way it is. Wealth Creator, Houston. What's you with BBY? Aren't we in the last week of 1 year since the shares got canceled? today's Thursday. Tomorrow is the 1-year anniversary of when the shares got canceled and removed from everyone's accounts, right? So that means the year, what do they call it? Not black hole, dark, year of going dark, is over. Like, they don't have to do any filings. They make all the moves they want with no filings. And then after tomorrow, I think they have to start making filings again if they're doing any corporate actions. So we're hoping that is some sort of significant date for announcing emergence from bankruptcy, distribution of equity, something like that. Otherwise, next Wednesday is the date, the 1.5 year date from establishing bankruptcy, where the creditors can now tell the bankruptcy court where things are going, and debtors no longer have control. So, see where it goes. And Big Muley, everything is infected by partisan BS. Trust no polls from anywhere. No. I'd say there's some polls you can just flat out ignore, like Rasmussen. You can look at Rasmussen polls and be like, no. That dude, literally, like, you pay him and he asks, what do you want the results to be? And you tell him and he goes, got it, boss. And that's why he got kicked off of 538. Their polls were showing that Carrie Lake in Arizona was going to win huge, and she got crushed. And she was using their polls in her lawsuits. Like, look, the polls were saying that I was going to win. All the other polls said she was going to get her ass kicked, and she did. And then 538 was like, Rasmussen, go out and do the poll again. And they did the poll again post-election, and they still said that she should have won. And they're like, yeah, you guys are garbage. There's, like, every other polling service says that she was going to lose. She lost after the vote count. There's something wrong with you. So they removed them from their aggregate because they couldn't be trusted. So there are polls out there that are complete bogus. For a long time, Zogby was that way. I don't think Zogby is part of 538 as a result. But, and, there's some polling services that have their algorithms wrong. It used to be much easier when everyone had a landline. When everyone had a landline, you'd call the landline, someone would answer, they'd answer your question, done. And now landlines only exist for, from about 2000 until pretty recently. They still only called landlines, and the only people who had landlines were old people, and old people skewed more conservative. And so the polls were skewing more conservative as a result of landline calling, and they're like, oh man, our demographics are really skewed towards old people because no young people are answering the phones. And so they had to get special permission and change things so they could start having cell phones, text polling, targeting people and be like, hey, would you be willing to respond to this poll? And then they have to look at who's responding, what the likely voters are, and they invent these little model fitting algorithms to kind of re-skew the polling into something more accurate as to what you'll see on election day. So if you contact 1,000 people for a poll and it skews really heavily towards old people with landlines, you have to give larger weight to the young people, the fewer young people there, and to get a more accurate fit for the poll. And there's some polling services who are really good at this stuff, and there's some polling services who are really bad at that stuff. Emerson is really good at the algorithm they use and getting a better representation of the populace than other polling services. Survey USA is okay. The New York Times, I think the New York Times Ipsos polls have not done a particularly good job of that so far this year. Although they presented some pretty large breakdowns. Pew is really good at it. Atlas can be hit and miss. They were pretty accurate in 2020, but this time around, I don't know. I don't think their algorithm is going pretty well this year. But you can read up all the articles of how they use those algorithms and make your mind from there. That's why they like 538 has a ranking system as to who is better at this than others, and then when they do their aggregate polling, it's algorithms top algorithms is how you try to make this stuff work. Andrew VH, is this the most contentious election of our lifetime? The wild part is we can't even think we're past this until 2 months after the election if we're lucky. Oh, there's definitely going to be just court fight after court fight. Trump is setting it up with election boards and legislatures and secretaries of state so that they won't certify the elections. Meanwhile, the Department of Justice is setting it up so you will certify those elections when those vote totals come in. If you don't, we're going to send you all to prison. And then the Democrats have 15,000 attorneys on retainer right now. Basically, they went to all these law offices, like, here is tens of thousands of dollars. If we need you, start fighting. Because they know that every single vote is going to get contested. They're like, oh, Lord, and they have to do challenges like crazy, and it's going to be lawfare. It's going to be just boatloads of lawfare. So, we've got weird things like the Georgia Election Board passed a rule saying that you have 12 hours to hand count every single ballot at every precinct in the state, and if you don't do it, then those votes don't count, basically. And then the court stepped in and was like, that's bullshit. No. You count the votes as long as it takes to count the votes, and that's how you count them. So we got this, already got this legal battles happening right now. We had a couple of federal cases where election boards were like, well, if we just don't certify, then the vote doesn't count. And the federal courts were like, no, you don't matter. We'll certify it for you if we have to. So, yeah, I think there's going to be a mess. There's going to be a giant mess. And ever since 2000, man, the lawfare around elections has just been a giant headache. And if the lawfare doesn't work, insurrection, right? That's what they did in 2020 or 2021. You try to violently take the government. And that works great if you, have control of the military, but you don't. And if you have a majority, but you don't. And if you don't have a whole bunch of federal agents already undercover in your organizations by the dozens. I mean, if you go to a militia meeting, I doubt there are militia people who watch my show, but if you go to like a militia meeting, Michigan militia, whatever, right? You go to your militia meeting like, hey, Bratya brothers, let's make ourselves a militia. Chances are that 1 in 3 people at that meeting is either an undercover agent for the DEA, ATF, FBI, etc., or an informant for one of those agencies. Guaranteed. Like after the Oklahoma City bombing, they went, oh crap, these militias are a huge danger. And not only that, but these militias they're not clubs. They're basically armed gangs. We've got a lot of these militias that are running drugs. We had the whole group, like, it was crazy. About, 10, 15 years ago, there was all these positive news stories about this group of Nazis in Arizona who would go to the border and, like, round up illegal aliens and bring them to the border patrol. It was this crazy PR thing, and people in the news were like, isn't it crazy these Nazis are doing something good? And I immediately was like, nope. They are running drugs across the border. They're running meth across the border. That's exactly what they're doing. They're using the cover of going out looking for illegal aliens. But really what they're doing is they're meeting their contacts from Mexico and bringing meth across the border. And then after the leader of that group was murdered by his 8-year-old son, 10-year-old son, young kid, who he had been abusing, the kid just blew his dad's brains away. It got revealed that they were running drugs across the border. So yeah, they pick up immigrant here and there, but that was their cover. So these groups, these armed groups, they're largely criminal organizations. You got like the groups like the Bundys who took over the Malheur Wildlife Refuge, right? They're basically gangs. So they're not, just because they're white dudes wearing fatigues and they're like, earlier, they're just paramilitary gangs. They're organized gangs. And so many of the people involved in those groups are undercover. So you're going to have a hard time doing your insurrection when like a full third of the folks are undercover. The Michigan militia case where they tried to kidnap the governor in Michigan, right? It was revealed that the second in command of the group was an FBI informant, and the third in command was an FBI agent. And so basically, the leader's like, what we should do, boys? We should kidnap the governor. And everyone's like, hell yeah! And then like, you two plan this. And so they had the 2 FBI guys plan the kidnapping of the governor, and lo and behold, it unraveled, and they all got arrested. Amazing how that works, right? So it's gonna be a mess. It's gonna be a giant mess. But I do have some hope that this time around, the government is ready for the mess, and they can take care of a lot of those folks. I think for some reason January 6th, which a lot of people saw coming, in the rhetoric and the planning. What's his butt? The former CEO of Overstock, Burns, who's now hiding out in the UAE because he's facing all sorts of legal things at the moment. But he was photographed outside the White House. He'd gone to a meeting with Trump about, something, and he's photographed holding papers. And cameras now, you got a 40 gigapixel camera, you can zoom in and they could literally read the papers that Burns was holding, and Patrick Burns, and it said it's like a list, like declare martial law, have the National Guard arrest everybody. He's holding this thing and you can read the step-by-step process of how they were going to do their insurrection. It was crazy. And so now that we know that this is what they'll do, because before we're like, oh, they might talk about it, but they would never do it, and they did it. I really hope the government right now just has figured out not to trust them. There. Cody Chandler, any thoughts on physical BBBY stores partnering with a Container Store? I find it interesting. I think having physical stores is a very important part of Bed Bath & Beyond. And Overstock buying Bed Bath & Beyond's IP and not keeping physical stores, I think they now see it as sort of a mistake. Because people like to touch things, right? Some people can just buy a couch online and be fine with it. Other people need to sit in the couch and they like it. My little sister saw a couch online and she bought it, sight unseen, just pictures, and measured it, oh cool. It arrived. It turns out she was allergic to the couch. the fabric was giving her hives and making her really ill, and so she had to take the couch back. If that couch had been in the store and she sat on it and be like, wow, I'm suddenly itchy, she wouldn't have bought that couch, right? So there's something to be said about having those physical stores. Even if people come in and don't buy things in the physical stores, they come in and at least know what they want, and they can order online later if they want to. And if you do it right, you can use those stores as warehouses to ship things to people locally and keep shipping costs down. So I think having physical stores is really important. I think it's interesting that they're partnering with somebody and not picking up empty retail space that exists everywhere right now to do that. But the Container Stores, they probably need a little more action inside of them. So I think it's probably pretty good. Chris Taylor, sub on fire today. Seriously. It is bonkers. Jigga Shukla, lol. So was the MyPillow guy. Oh yeah, the MyPillow guy. He's also having some meltdowns. Did you notice that he was doing his pillows for sale for $14.88? What a weird price. Why would the MyPillow guy use the Nazi number for the price of his pillows? That's just insane. Right? Yeah. Former crackheads. What are you going to do? All right, where was I? Sub on fire. Julius Mammy, half of my garage are bins full of baseball cards. Julius, start organizing them, man. Start organizing them, get them ready for sale. BFH, a Magic Gathering Black Lotus, meanwhile, can fetch 4 figures after your dog ate it. Well, the thing about the Magic cards I find interesting is that, yes, there's value to them if they're pristine and whatnot, but also there's value to them dependent upon how they get used when you play the game, right? So if you've got a really, really rare, super powerful card, there's only 4 of them in the entire world, your dog can eat it, shit it out, and you can still use that card in a game, then yeah, there's still crazy value to that. So, yeah. Colin, IEP looking like $15 could be a decent resistance level. If they can break it, could it be heading to 18 though? Hoping we still test down around 11, 12 to load up more first. I get you. Right, Monkey? You understand. You're down there just going to town yourself. You know exactly what floors are all about. So yeah, I get it. Look up the prices. Look up the prices on those. It's crazy. I years ago for my nephew, I found like binders of old Pokemon cards from the 90s, and I gave them to him for birthday or Christmas or something. And in there, he was like, "Holy shit! There's a Shazard." So I was thinking it was like $1,000 card that was in there, and I was like, "Cool! I got that for like $10 at Goodwill. You're welcome." So, yeah, there's finds to be had everywhere. Sold out. How do you send? What do you think about Scott Trout on Twitter asking folks to send their MMTLP share account so he can start an audit? Haven't we done that like 10 times now? I swear I've done like a whole bunch of audits so far. I guess we could do it again, right? Right, Monkey? You ready to get audited again? Yeah. So, sure. I get it. I get it there, Soul. Even we transferred to NextBridge Hydrocarbons. I mean, if you're in... it makes sense if you are in a brokerage still and not transferred over to AST. If you're in AST, that count's already listed. So, yeah, if you're a brokerage guy, by all means, tell them what's in there and they can start doing the work. To interview is tough work, but I'm doing none of it. Nobody wants to work anymore. Corporate Walnut. Please remember, Corporate Walnut, now that you're big time. Yes. Since before, hey, Houston. I've been really seeding the crap out of the sub. Keywords in the title are usually great draws for lunatics and bots alike. It's been really fun seeing all activity. Let's start pod. The number of bots is bonkers. Like, the reason why the show started at 3:15 today is because I spent so much time deleting bots. The growth of the sub has just been wild. I mean, like a month ago, there were like 3,000, and now we're almost 9. And it's just, and because it's hot, because it's like in that top list, it's being just put in everyone's feeds. And so I get a lot of people who, A, think that the sub is about Houston, Texas. So there's a lot of comments that are like, Houston, Texas is full of all these damn liberals these days. And they don't understand that I'm a dude named Houston. And then you have the bots in general, the Russian bots especially, the negative 100 accounts that show up and just they post gobbledygook nonsense. So you got to delete all those. And please, if you see someone post something off the wall, bonkers, and you're like, wow, that's offensive, before you do any responding, just click their account and see if they've got a negative number for their karma. And if it's negative, just flag it and don't respond. Because if you respond, then the bot responds, and then somebody else gets their response. And then rather than having one thing I got to delete, I had to spend 15 minutes deleting all of that bot's responses and wiping it from the internet. So it just creates a lot of work. I need to figure out how to do an auto mod bot so that I can make it so that, because apparently you just can't make a setting in Reddit like nobody with negative karma allowed to participate. You have to like make some sort of bot file and give it permissions, and then the auto mod bot then like nukes anybody with that low karma rating to get rid of all the bots. And then the number of Nazis are kind of weird. Like, you know, someone will say, they'll say something and you're like, that's worded in such a way that it could be Nazi-like. And you're like, and then you read the next comment, you're like, oh nope, that's a Nazi. And they'll say things like, you know, when Trump gets elected, it'll be great to finally murder all the communists, right? I'm like, what? Who's a communist? Like, there's like 5 communists in this country. We don't have national health care yet, so no, we are not even close to being communist. And then you like realize, oh, they got like a weird little German helmet in their profile, and oh yeah, their username. So you got to go through and you have to delete them for being Nazis. But then when you delete the Nazis, you're like, hey, you're a Nazi, get fucked. They then send you a message and like, I'm going to kill you. So then you have to report them. And then they get upset that they got reported and their account deleted. So they make 5 more accounts and come in. And it's just a ongoing thing. What Reddit has been pretty good at is nuking accounts for ban evasions. It's like, hey, this looks like a band evasion account. And you go and you're like, oh yeah, boop. But man, the whole moderating thing that is a full-time job. Reddit needs to figure out how to like pay moderators. We're bringing traffic to your site. You're getting ads in people's eyes. I'm doing lots of work moderating this crap. Where was I? Okay, did that one. Lee Meadows, their Cocker Spaniel. All the little buddies are going to step on their ears. Yeah, Cocker Spaniel buddy once. Remember that? Yeah. She doesn't get me as though she's going to get fed again. B of H, Trump told people to rally to vote on January 5th. Freudian slip, maybe? We make lots of... I mean, who hasn't called a sibling by the wrong name or a child by the wrong name or an animal by the wrong name? I get those. But January 5th, pretty Freudian. Casey, Houston, what website do you use for most accurate poll standings? Would you mind seeing where we are at? I usually just use the aggregate polling at 538. So I go to the 538 presidential polls, and I want to do this one. So I have the states in there as well. So you can look at, like, you can click on this guy and look at where the aggregates are. So all these little dots here show all the different polling services and the dates that they were polled, and then they use the algorithm to figure out kind of where we are nationally. And right now we're at Harris 48.5, Trump 46.1. You can see there's outliers. There's ones like this guy is way down here at Trump near 40%, and you got ones where like Harris is up. You have some where Trump is up really high for some reason. So you can kind of see the red or blue of it as to who is ahead. And then they list the polls as they come out. So like this one is general election tip insights. It was between the 14th and 16th is when they did the polling. They did 1,200 people. This is the result. RMG research for Michigan. They did 789 people between the 10th and 16th. It was funded by the Neapolitan Institute, and it looks like it's tied in Michigan. This one, Wisconsin, RMG research also. This one doesn't have a funder listed. Same dates. This one shows Trump by 1 in Wisconsin. Then we got same, ActiveVote Texas, ActiveVote Tennessee. One's in Georgia. Here's general election from October 12th, 15th from YouGov, paid for by The Economist, showing Harris up by 4 and up by 3. So they did 2 separate polls of different totals. Sometimes if you're rich, you will do like 2 separate ones, and then they'll give you a better idea as to maybe under different conditions and with different questions, and you can kind of see what the differences are and how you ask questions. So you'll see that happen a lot. Well, you'll have 2 different polls funded at the same time with looking for with the same binary. Here's Wisconsin Morning Consult. Oops, dead guy monitor just crapped out, so I got to reboot. 1 sec. I can't see what's going on when the dead guy monitor goes out. Come back. There we go. So here we go. Pennsylvania. This one's showing Harris up by 1 from Morning Consult. Here's Ohio showing that's actually Harris is growing Ohio. She was down at 40% not too long ago, but Trump's still ahead. North Carolina for Morning Consult looks like Harris is down by 1 at the moment. Nevada, Harris is ahead in Nevada. Michigan has Harris Morning Consult up. I don't even know why they're bothering to do polling in like Maryland, because the 64-31 is pretty dominant there. Arizona, Harris is up. So we got Harris up in Michigan, Pennsylvania, Nevada, Arizona, and then even in where was she even? She was even in even in Michigan here. And then behind in North Carolina. So the swing states, she's dominating the swing states at the moment across these different polls. And these are the results that were published yesterday. Again, showing like Michigan Information Research Services paying Mitchell Research and Communications to do the polling, and we've got like the Telegraph paying Redfield Milton Strategies to do polling. So these ones are for Michigan, showing pretty much even across the board. General election Wisconsin. This one has Harris up, Trump up. So, it's pretty even there as well. So, this is who I usually use because it seems to be the best collection of aggregate polling that you'll see. If you want to go into depth on some of these polls, you can click on ActiveVote and you can go to their website, and they will show you, or you can go to like say Pew Research, and you can click on the Pew Research Center, and they will list their polls. So American see men masculinity. They do, like, Pew Research does crazy polls. They'll do all sorts of different polls about different views on subjects and topics and whatever. And then they break it down. So you can look at how Americans see men masculinity. So this is how did we do this poll. So they list how they did the poll, terminology used, and they break down like the respondents, their race, gender, sexual orientation, all that stuff. And you can go through all of these polls, and it goes really in depth as to the demographics behind these things and the stats behind it, and their the particular views. So this has to do with like public sees more progress in recent decades for women than men in the workplace and higher education. So it shows that women are getting more leadership positions and getting better paying jobs, and more likely to go to college, university, etc. So they do really good job breaking these things down, and like. This is not a small report. This is a 9-page report. So you can go to the next page and see exactly where this data is and how it came about and what people's views are specifically. So if you want to see the in-depth stuff, that's where you go to see like what the breakdown is, rather than just like the straight binary, because they collect demographic data. So if they're asking a question, are you voting for Kamala Harris or for Donald Trump in the election, right? And you can say one or the other. And they're going to ask, what is your age? What is your sex? What is your religion? What is, what is your college education level? What is your income level? How many people in your household? Are you married? Are you single? And they get 100 different points of demographic information, and you can then break it down and see what particular demographics. Like you might say, Donald Trump is winning white people. And then you break down the white people, you see that Donald Trump is winning uneducated white people, but losing white people with a college education. You're like, oh, okay. So where Harris is doing poorly is with non-college educated whites. Gotcha. So it might tell a campaign like, hey, you need to start focusing more on non-college educated white males, because if you can get 2 points of them, you can then take the entire election by a landslide type thing. So a lot of stuff will break down that way. I do recommend everyone should take a statistics course in college. 90% of what you learn in that statistics course, I hate saying that word, I taught that class, statistics course, isn't used very often. Like you'll use mean, mode, median. You'll use skewness, kurtosis, confidence interval, standard deviation. You'll use those like 6 things and 7 things, and that's about it. And then there's a whole bunch of other weird analytics that they teach you that if you're going to go into like become a statistician, like do it for a living, you will care about those analytics. If you're just going to become like a basic researcher, a basic scientist, a basic human being who just wants to be able to read these things, understand kind of where it's coming from, you just need to know those like 6-7 things and move on from there. But so I do recommend everyone take one. The problem is that when you do grad school, you have to take the same stupid statistics course over and over. Like you take it in your undergrad, cool. And you go to grad school, like, hey, you're gonna take the statistics course again. Like this is the exact same book we used when I took it in undergrad. They're like, we know. And then you go for another grad degree, like, hey, guess what? We're gonna take statistics again. Like, motherfucker, I just took this course in grad school not too long ago. And then you go and it make you take it over and over and over. And that part's annoying. So they should do a statistics course on how many times people take statistics courses. Find that out. KYP, Houston, thanks for all you do. Well, thank you, KYP. Jigga Shukla, heads up, early vote numbers tend to be better than polls at this point. Early voting in Pennsylvania is bonkers. The results are already coming in because it's showing like 70% of early votes are Democrats. The early vote numbers in Georgia are crushing records. The early votes in Florida, however, are not. And that's probably due to the fact that half the state has been destroyed by hurricanes recently. And a lot of people are not in their homes. Therefore, they're elsewhere. They're staying with friends and family. They're not anywhere near Florida or near their precincts. So early voting in Florida, actually, the numbers are way down. So it's that part's a toss-up. Although there's been a big push to write in DeSantis on Florida ballots. DeSantis for president. So that may make the state blue. That's the result. Stephanie L. Having the creditors or is the debtors rewrite the bankruptcy plan isn't good for us, or is it? My ex-boss's son died in Parkland. Jones, go to hell. Sorry, my condolences to your boss's son, your boss. I don't know if the creditors rewriting the bankruptcy is good. If the creditors are on our side, it could be very, very good. If 6th Street is in fact funded by like Ryan Cohen and ICANN and other people that we think that they are, then them rewriting the bankruptcy to benefit all of us might be fantastic. But I don't know if it's necessary. I guess we'll find out before Wednesday or by Wednesday, if that's the case. I'm still holding out for some sort of filing being dropped after close tomorrow, and us going, merger Monday or something. I think there's a non-zero chance that happens. But I do think the closer we get to Wednesday, the greater the odds are that something's going to go pop out of that whole thing. Hazel, hey, hi, Houston. I saw on the early news this morning that BBBY was opening new stores inside some shipping container stores. Sorry, it was on 3am. Didn't catch it all. Have you heard this? Yes, we just briefly talked about that. I think they're trying to get a presence back into the people who like to have tactile responses, which is a big part of, people who buy towels. Your friend is here. Woo! Just mammy. Idiot Republicans here in Florida writing a DeSantis on their mail-in ballots. Yep, there you go. MS Houston heard talk of RK coming back October 25th-ish for options. I mean, if he comes back, it's probably going to be on a Sunday night, and then we'll see crazy volatility on a Monday morning if he does. Yeah, it's a... I would love for him to come back. I need to load up on calls again first before he does that. So if I can load up on calls and then he comes back, that's the best method, personally. So Warren Kitty, just wait until I've loaded up again, please. Stephanie L. Super Chats. Maybe should be mandatory to have college degrees in order to vote. So we got some sort of decent leaders. Kidding, sort of. I think if we do our job with public schools the way we should, which is we fund the shit out of public schools. Funding public schools should be paramount to pretty much anything else in this country. You fund the schools first and you focus on everything else after that. Focus on the military after that. Focus on infrastructure. You make sure the schools kick ass and produce some decent human beings, and we show the kids that they matter to us. I think that is a huge benefit for all of society. And whether they go on to college or not, them graduating high school knowing that their community cares about them, I think goes further than almost anything. That's why I believe that students should have free lunches. If you're going to make kids, if you're going to force them by law, truancy laws, etc., to be at that institution to get their diploma until they're at least 18, right? Then you feed them, and it does a couple of things. One, for a lot of kids, it's the only meal they get. Two, a lot of kids who need subsidized meals are embarrassed having to get into the subsidized meal line or having different tickets or, needing to eat food because they're literally starving, but they can't afford it. And then they get shamed for it, for having a stamp on their hand, no paying money, or get put on the delinquent lunch list and things like that. Just feed the kids. Just feed them. It's, feed them and feed them well. Make things they want to eat. Make it at least a modicum of healthiness, and just have every kid. Don't worry about them having their parents pack lunches. Just feed them. And I would love, and I've talked about this before, I'd love to have the French system where every school has a chef, and that chef gets up at 3 a.m. He goes to the market, gets fresh fish, chicken, whatever. He's got recipes for the day, and he makes a fantastic meal for every single solitary student in that school that is just magnifique, right? We can do that here. But the way the budgeting works for schools is that, they got to figure out a way to use canned and frozen food, get it nuked as fast as possible on their plates, because they can only spend, $1.10 per student, because that's how much money they're allotted, right? I say no. Just, triple, quadruple the amount per student for food, and no longer just have lunch ladies reheating frozen pre-made stuff, and have an actual chef make food every day. Use those commercial kitchens as they were intended to be used. We used to do it that way, and then Reagan kind of stripped it all from everybody, and here we are. And it's like we lost the ability to figure out how to make food for people in large numbers. It's crazy, and we should be able to do it. And you just need to hire the people who can. So do that. Fund our schools well. Feed the kids. Show them that they're loved, right? And I think that goes a long ways if we do that. But we instead, like here in Seattle, enrollment is down because people are having less children. That's bound to happen. The problem is that the class sizes were too large. We're like, oh my God, we have 40 students per class. The teachers know what to do. And now the class sizes are getting down to a reasonable level where it's like 20 students per class. They're like, well, we got to close an elementary school. What happens when you close elementary school? You're now going to put 40 kids into the class of the next elementary school and be like, well, they're too crowded now. Like, we need to figure out how to have a reasonable student-to-teacher ratio across the board. Granted, there are some classes where you can have, 100 students and like 2 PE teachers or whatever, right? Because they're just going to play dodgeball and crap anyway. Or, just like when you're looking at colleges, one of the aspects in like U.S. News and World Report rankings of colleges is the student to professor ratio. And the lower that ratio, generally the better the school. The big difference between, doing undergraduate at a state school like Hawaii, doing graduate school at a state school like University of Washington, and doing grad school at a very expensive school like Harvard, was the professor to student ratio was insane at Harvard. I would be in a class at UW, there might be 15 of us, 20 of us, right? In a high level astronomy course or whatever. And I got one professor, and maybe every once in a while a TA might show up, right? There's like 115. I take an online history course through Harvard. There's 25 of us. There's a professor, there's 25 students, and there's 4 TAs. So it's a 1-to-5 ratio between experts and students per class. It is crazy how many TAs. And I know it's expensive to do that, but you know what? If we can forego an F-35 fighter or a B-2 bomber or something and like fund that in our lives and make teachers, if teachers all have elementary school level, all of them have TAs to help out in courses and help keep kids under control. And, a lot of behavior problems come out of kids who are fucking starving and have shit home lives. And we can address those facts more easily if that's the case. One of the reasons you've like gifted programs is because a lot of the gifted kids are hyperactive weirdos and you need to remove them from class anyway. Put them in the gifted program. There, you're with all your weirdos. Now the rest of the class can pay attention to what they need to do. You got to figure out ways to sort of stratify learning levels and things like that. So it's gonna be expensive, but yeah, we gotta do it. Oh crap! I've been rambling a lot today. I'm an hour behind, and now I gotta go. Okay, let's find one good one here, and then I'll run away, and we'll do a longer show tomorrow for Friday. I promise. Since before, Houston is getting into politics worth it. I'm frustrated with the cowardice of modern politicians. I've been thinking of jumping into the madness. Is your life exposed to the world worth the fight? I mean, if you have a bunch of skeletons in your closet, probably not. Like, oh yeah, there's all those kids I murdered. No, I don't want that coming out. But if you've lived just like kind of a solid life and you're proud of what you've done and you can own up to mistakes you've made, then you're going to be okay. There isn't too much digging into deep background until probably you're running for governor, Senate, president, things like that. Because there's a lot of weirdos who have made their way into the House, and we don't hear about a lot of their dirt until they reach a high position of power or they start running for president or senator or something. And then all of a sudden, a lot of dirt that has been kept behind is now starts coming out or saved for later. So as long as you aren't running for president or governor, I think whatever dirt you get hidden back there, it's probably gonna be okay. Yeah. Julius Batman DeSantis #1 fan. Okay, I have to go to the post office because there's the prize package for our Halloween Charity Tuesday, Thursday that I got to pick up. Oh, nice burp. So I'm got to go do that and then have to work. I will see you guys tomorrow. I will do a 2-hour show tomorrow, I promise. So any questions I did not get to, by all means, come back and watch. All right. Let's do that one again. There we go. Oh, nope, not that one. That's the one I get busted for. This one. All right.